Okay, first on the agenda tonight, we have the workshop discussion, Belmar Better Angels.
Yep.
Could you angels step forward? Get your wings.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Sure.
Everybody hear us? I'm Martha Maselko. I live at 102 North Boulevard. And what I'm going to do, well, we as a group wanted to talk to you very briefly about ourselves and what we do. And so really, thank you for letting us come. The goal is to let you know that we exist. And the group's purpose is to build community and collaboration across partisan lines about issues and concerns that face Belmar. In the future, we hope to be able to come to you with any suggestions, ideas, and thoughts we have as a group who have reached it in a bipartisan fashion. And what we'd like to do tonight is, first of all, explain the history of how this got started. And then Aileen is going to talk a little bit about the mission of the Better Angels. And then each person will introduce themselves and let you know who we are. Not everyone is here tonight, so just the ones that can make it.
How many members are in your group?
We're 18. And 14 in trainers. But I consider us 18. So in terms of the history, Better Angels started with David Bleckenhorn in 2016. And what happened is he looked at the divide across the country and he said, I'd like to do something about this. I'd like to create a bipartisan movement to get people together to talk, not necessarily to agree with each other, but to talk and see if there's common ground and they can work issues and become a force. So he began to do that, and he has gone across the country, and it has been very successful. Mary actually brought him to Belmar for a brief one in 2017, and it wasn't just Belmar, it was just a group of Democrats and Republicans coming together. So as a result of that, he offered training to train people to run workshops in their local communities. And so 4 of us were trained, and we have come here to Belmar because I personally believe very strongly that Belmar has a divide, and I would like to do anything I could to help heal that. And so the history is that we've come together now since May and had a session in May and June, and we will continue to meet. And so our goal here is just to let you know that we do exist, and we look forward to working with you. And Aileen is going to talk.
Hi, I'm Aileen Fay, 400 River Avenue. Thanks so much. So I just wanted to say just a little bit more. I'll read one quick quote that the people in our group had suggested, and I think it fits the Better Angels very well. Abraham Lincoln said in his inaugural address, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will yet swell the chorus of the Union when touched again, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature." So we are Belmar's better angels, or we try to be. We are Democrats and Republicans with the common knowledge that Belmar will thrive because of our united service. Our ideologies may differ in some ways, but for Belmar, we will not be bound by political party. We will not be divided by political rhetoric. This does not mean we're afraid of politics, for politics simply means of the people. And for Belmar's people, we are devoted to work together honestly and fairly. Thanks.
Thank you.
People get up and
Sir,
say a
just
quick,
gonna introduce County
just a quick.
Whatever.
Okay.
I know this guy. I've seen him.
My name's Bobby Brown. I live at 411 3rd Avenue. I was a summer resident for as long as I can remember, and I bought my first house down here in '71, and we moved here in '75, which means I've been a resident, raised my family here for 43 years, but Brian McGovern still considers me a Benny. But I've seen a lot of politics come and go, and I thought this was a really good idea, this group. So I joined because I've seen party politics polarize Belmar to the point where Democrats and Republicans have stopped listening to each other, even though they're often looking to achieve the same goals for our community. Our main goal is to reduce the rancor and increase the understanding of each other's points of view. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carol Davies, 15th Avenue, and I've been Belmar resident for 20 years and served on the Environmental Commission for over 12. And I'm just excited to be part of this group and working together with these people.
Hi, I'm Katrina Klapsis. I live on B Street, and I am on the red team. We have a blue team and a red team. The blue team obviously is kind of like our Democrat people, and our red team is kind of like our Republican people, although the one thing that we agree on, and has been very interesting for, I think, both sides of our group to hear, is how much we have in common with each other. Although the rhetoric of the last number of years, you would think that neighbor to neighbor are opposed to everything of each other. And what I found listening to these folks, I was lucky enough to participate in the one last year, the national level one. And Martha had called me and asked me to get involved in the Belmar. And I think I had a great experience with the national level one. And I, so far, have had a great experience with these folks on the Belmar level. And I just really, truly believe that Belmar is 1 square mile town with great people in it. And if we could get past all the noise, we can accomplish a lot with all of your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Vicki Renner, 1106 D Street. The police probably have my number, as I call it, Vicky. I joined this group to begin the healing process of the division in our town and start a process to unify the residents by discovering that we have more in common than we realize. We will all continue to have our individual differences, but by less assumptions and judgments, we can lead to a better understanding of others and their viewpoints. United residents, regardless of political affiliation, can set goals that are better for all of us and will show strength in numbers to help achieve them, resulting in a stronger community overall. I moved here when I was 28. I'm 62, and since day one, I think the day after I moved here, I started the neighborhood network, the community policing, many different things I've served on. Shade Tree, vice chairman of the planning board for about 20 years. So this is a good group. I found that our exercises that we did together was very beyond interesting when it's led by the people who are leading it and showing that when you have the results placed in front of you, just like they said, we all have a lot of things in common, and we were surprised by what came out of the first few meetings. So it's very good, and I hope that the group will get stronger, and I hope that we have a lot of people that will join and become one united group and one united community the way it should be, because we are 1 square mile.
Linda Sharkus, 400 4th Avenue. I've been a resident of Belmar for 35 years and love the community, love the sense of being at Cheers, everybody knew your name. And that has kind of fallen by the wayside because the complexion of our community has changed with the influx of people buying homes and remodeling or tearing them down and making them, summer homes. So I look at this Belmar Better Angels as being a mechanism for creating more of that sense of community. And I'm looking forward to working with the council to achieve our goals and get back to the basics. Thank you.
on a 10. I think pretty much everything's been covered already. Everything that I would have said has already been said, and I'm just looking forward to work with this group.
Hi, I'm Maria Montanaro, 1246 Pine Tree Way. I love Belmar, and I was honored to be a part of this group. One of the things that I really love about it is that it holds the social work values that I have, which is of empathy and true listening. And through true listening to one another, not anything about party, not, red and blue, purple, really listening, we can get things accomplished. So I'm hoping that together we can listen to each other and bring things to you that are concerns from both Republicans, Democrats, in the middle, green, whatever you are. We want to hear your point of view because we care. Thanks.
Linda Jelson, L Street. I'm probably one of the newer people in the group. I've only been here for 7 years. And I chose here to retire when I was about 67, 68, whatever. At that point, I knew very little about Belmar. When I came and lived here and saw this division, I was kind of overwhelmed by it. And when Better Angels was introduced to me by Katrina, what I heard was an opportunity not to be angry, because I found myself constantly angry. So that's where I am, wanting to be with people who are living the life, who have the experiences, who want the best for my retirement home. So.
Hi. Mary Brennan, 11th Avenue. And I also appreciate you allowing us to come tonight. This has been something that I've been involved with nationally for a couple of years, and thought that the best use of my time along with the other facilitators would be to really bring what we do to Belmar. And it has been a real pleasure working with everyone and having them come to the table full of ideas and energy and willingness to work together. It's been an eye-opening and wonderful experience for me personally. As you know, I've been involved in the town for a lot of years, and I've lived here over 30 years. And I'm a baby too still there. We have come together as a group with several specific things that we're looking at, some general things that we're looking at, and I have full confidence that when we do meet with the council on these requests or issues or suggestions, that it will be a dialogue and that we'll be able to move forward together and keep this town, as everybody says. We all live here because we love it. We're 1 square mile surrounded by water. We want our families to be healthy. We want to enjoy it, and I think together we can do that. Thanks. Oh, I just wanted to mention Donna Falk and Josh Valerio are also part of the group but couldn't make it tonight. Are we missing anybody else? Oh, Tom Volker also.
Okay.
Hi, Tom McGowan, 703 A Street. Been resident of Belmar now since 2010. For 20 years I was involved in Republican politics in Spring Lake, and we had the same kind of situation in Spring Lake that we're experiencing now, a lot of angst between the two parties. Luckily, we were able to come together in Spring Lake, and they're getting along a lot better now. I hope that's the end result of what this group is trying to do.
Just, anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'd just like to comment. I think this is great to see residents of the town getting together. There's a lot more that unites us than divides us. And I think there's a lot of people in the town who think the glass is half empty. There's others who think the glass is half full. But at the end of the day, all you really want is to fill the glass up as much as you can. So I think it's really great that you're putting your heads together and putting party politics aside and looking for what's best for Belmar. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I don't know why I'm so familiar with the concept here, but I gotta tell you, I think what you're doing is really great work. It's something that's to be applauded. I know that the idea of listening with respect, respecting other people's ideas, even if you don't agree with them, I think is really important. And I congratulate you all for being willing to commit your time and your effort. It's really something I look forward to hearing what you have to bring to the council. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great. I agree with everything you said at the microphone, and I wish it to continue. But where do you meet? No one said, where do the Angels? Oh, at the library. How often?
Once a month,
Once a month?
right now.
Okay, and so when you have a meeting, what's the agenda? Who sets the agenda, or what gives you the topic to talk about?
It's a facilitated session, so what we did was Martha and I and two other facilitators brought to the very first session. We invited, sort of a mix of people from the community, geographically and background-wise. And in the first session, we used traditional Better Angels exercises to have them really look at their differing opinions, what they had in common. It's a set of exercises. And we're happy to do it with the council if you ever want it. We can bring these to anybody, but they're skill-building exercises, and they're, where you sit in a circle and listen, and then you speak. And so we brainstormed together, and through that process, we came up with a list of 7 items that we thought might be important to focus on in Belmar. Some are general, some are specific. And what we decided was, going forward, that in each meeting, we would look at one of those and go through that same facilitation process where everybody is able to have a discussion and really hear each other and brainstorm ideas. So that's what we're doing now. We're working on our first set of issues.
Do you ever think of doing this like it's great for adults. What about during the school year with kids in school, to get them to kind of work at that?
Yeah, there's groups doing that right now, and some of them are offshoots, and a lot of them who work in schools are members of the National Better Angels. Their focus right now is on adults, so we can behave like adults for the midterm elections and for everything else going on. We've also done a skill-building workshop in Belmar that was just open to the general public, aside from the first national gathering that we had. So there's lots of things we want to do on the side, but specifically this group is focused on Belmar issues.
I just want to say that 2 of you mentioned the word Benny and looked at me kind of strangely. I have to say, growing up, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, I always saw it as extra summer kids to play with. And I came from a big family, so over in my backyard, there were tons of kids from, I was one of the youngest in my family, all the way up to teenagers. And I never used the word Benny. And we used to have sleepovers in a big tent in my backyard with all ages of people. So summertime for me was a lot of fun. Extra kids to play with, extra kids to go down the beach. I enjoyed them.
We hear you, Brian. We take that back.
I'm not offended. If you were said Benny back then, I'd be looking around for the kid named Benny. Okay. Anybody else want to add anything?
I actually just want to make it very clear, just in case you're not sure, that when we do present some of our requests or comments or concerns, that that it is not an agenda that comes from one person down and we all have to work on it. It is an agenda that we together only unanimously have decided, okay, this means something to all of us, and that half of us are Democrats and the other half are Republicans.
But you're all Belmar residents.
But we're all Belmar residents. Right.
So we're purple.
I just like to thank everyone for coming out and putting in your time. I hope it continues to grow. And it's probably a great thing,
Well, you hold that thought until we come up.
Yeah.
treated. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Next on the workshop, the CDBG hearing. Colleen, can you
We have a
have
Wave
the
Club here in Belmar.
Wave Rock Club acronym for CD, Community Development Block Grant?
Great.
Yes. Hello, Mayor and Council, members of the public. We are going to be holding a public hearing on a potential grant application made on behalf of the borough. The program is the Monmouth County Community Development Block Grant Program. The program provides grants up to $200,000 for CDBG eligible activities. The entirety of Belmar is in a CDBG eligible block group, which is good news, so that we are eligible for the funding. And we can apply for anything that is considered fundable within that boundary. What we have focused on in this application for your consideration and to hear from the public, in the past 5 years since Hurricane Sandy, we have really focused on very large projects, whether it was construction of a building or paving of an entire street or replacing the entirety of a sewer system. I think the nature of grant funding these days is shifting, and so we've decided to tack accordingly and to say instead of just doing multi-million-dollar projects, it would be very smart to start doing smaller projects where we can chip away at maybe $200,000 worth of paving a year, get a few more blocks picked up. So our focus in this initial application is to piggyback on the success that we had in applying for larger grant funding for 12th Avenue. So through DOT, we have secured funding to do paving this fall, all of 12th Avenue from C Street to 35. So that would, C Street to 35. And so that will be going out to bid probably in late August, early September, with the idea of completing that before the winter. So what we did was we identified that as a fundable and funded project. And then we've now, what we're going to do is appeal to the Monmouth County program for additional funding to pave Railroad Avenue, pretty much between, I have a project map for you, 13th and 16th Avenue. So initially it's to piggyback close to the funded area on 12th, and then every year we're back for another tranche, okay? So I have some maps here of the project location. I can talk a little bit about the financing. The total project costs at this time, we anticipate spending $207,000 to pave both the east and west side of Railroad Avenue from 13th to 16th. We're eligible to get up to $200,000 in funding, which would be phenomenal that we would only have about $7,000 funded by the borough. Okay. So I have some maps. People are welcome to come up and to take a look.
Would we get a pushback from the auto body stores? I mean, businesses.
They would lose quite a lot of undercarriage
They lose a lot of front-end alignment business, right?
True. Yes, that is absolutely accurate. So I have some maps I'll provide to you and up here for the public to take a look at. And if anybody wants to ask a question or give a comment about another funded area that they think would be interesting to do, now would be the time to express that.
Tennis courts available, Annette?
We have different money for that one, actually.
Okay, fair. Thank you.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, everyone, but it's essentially the east and west side of Railroad Avenue from 13th to 16th. And our goal would be to tack on additional blocks in future years to try to get as much funded and paved as possible. If you want to take one and pass it around, that's right. Pretty self-explanatory. Yes, ma'am. And if you want to make a comment, if you could come up to the mic. And this is federal money, so we document everything. So I have a little sign-in sheet if you want to leave a comment.
This is federal money, I thought you said county.
It's passed through to the county to administer, but originally it comes from HUD.
What I wanted to bring up was 20 years ago, I think it was, we did traffic studies when the first time 12th Avenue was paved. And as long as I've lived here, we always wanted from Main Street to the railroad, right by the school, they tried to create a center island. I see they just did it in Spring Lake because the road was so wide over there, and they were able to put something down the center. It was called traffic calming in those days. We did all studies with, I think it was Chief Lynch did studies. But if you're going to do it, it would be another great opportunity to finally do what we've talked about for 100 years, is put something in the center. The Shade Tree Commission that when I ran that, we also came up with a plan of doing a row of trees maybe down the center, were the trees on the sidewalk part of the school. Dr. Richards was vehemently opposed to trees on the property, and it was very hard to get any trees there for the kids on the school sidewalk area. But I'm saying, if you're going to do this now, I think we lost our opportunity on Ocean Avenue. Unfortunately, when Hurricane Sandy took place, the traffic study we had in place with the state was to have a bike path down there, and we were never able to. It went so fast that we didn't do it. So before we lose this chance, if you're going to pave it, I'm yippee because it's Apple City, and it's just a disaster again because there are a lot of new homes and everything that happens. But for the kids crossing and for the guard that's there, it would make a path, a designated path for the crossing clearer. It would make the street where people wouldn't come off 35 and zoom down 12th Avenue to get to the light on Main Street as fast. It was a traffic calming pattern. Drew, I don't know if you guys did anything or know more about it, but a center island was discussed, and if there's any way to do that, aesthetically it would be beautiful, and I think it would also have a purpose.
Where's the island you're anticipating or recommending?
So if you're coming from Route 35, okay, so you come off the Highway 35, and for years, that speed you're doing on Route 35 it used to continue up until you got to the Main Street light. It flew over the tracks, over the bump, and landed at the light, it was red, and then went over.
What you're talking about before, there's a stop sign.
So over the years, they implemented putting a stop sign, I don't know what road that is actually there before, Jager Lumber, there's a stop sign there now. Bayview, okay, so they put the stop sign there, and they, we even had the thing in the middle one time, the sign in the middle, before everybody kept bumping into it and stealing it to be funny to take this, for kids. And then now you come up with the four-way stop signs, which years ago were also difficult to get. If you got one, it was getting like horrible. It took years to get one. Now we're able, people understand it more, and so they're able to place them. I guess you did them on A streets, B streets, right, wherever you added more to them. So what the police at the time were doing, and I guess what they're still doing now, is getting everybody to slow down at each corner, slow down just a straight zoom, okay? So the road itself is wide, as soon as you cross over to the tracks. So from where the Jager Lumber, as soon as you cross over Jager Lumber, then the school, the field. So that whole street there. And then after you cross over the light to Main Street, they also had discussed the width. There is also a little bit wider until it starts to close down, but I think if that's impossible, the part by the school I think is the most important, and that would be the best place if we can add that in. And I'd be happy to work on it. I'd be happy to help them, with whatever planting, design, whatever we have to do to make it right this time, it would be great. So Drew and the police might know more. We'll pull out the old records of the different officers that did it. So,
Can I ask you to just sign?
Sure.
Just if you give comment, I just need to get your name and email it.
Drew, we have a traffic study officer that would probably live in the street and.
Traffic officer.
Yeah, okay, but know that actually study and recommend or not recommend.
We do a traffic study, we get an engineer to do it.
Okay.
The only problem I can see though would be 12th Avenue. We do get a lot of truck traffic there going to the lumberyard, so I don't know how an island would impact that.
I mean, let's see where there's a walkway, there's a crosswalk marked off where the crossing officer crosses the kids as they're coming to the school parking lot. It's east of the entrance to Jaeger. You might want to leave. You could put something in from the edge of that crosswalk down towards Main Street. But we'd have to do a study. I mean, we have to see if it's really wide enough and see what's feasible. I mean, I think it's a great idea, and I think you might have a little more cooperation from some of the people.
Yeah, and I think whatever you brought up was part of it. They obviously did leave room for them to get it.
Yes,
That was considered. Yep.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
We're talking about funds we have. Sharon Mahoney, in Main Street, Belmar. So regarding street improvements, if I can just touch on that. So I live on the corner of 8th and Main,
you know where I live. I've been meaning to talk to somebody about doing, if you've done a study or whatever, I can't tell you how much that speed is increased from people coming through that light. They come from 35, come down, to Main Street, and then you have sometimes 3 lanes of traffic because people turn left. People on the right going, you can make the left and straight, and the people want to turn right. There's nobody parked there. There are 3 lanes of traffic going across Main Street, or one's turning left, the other 2 trying to get up Main Street. Once they get across, they go, it's like the speedway. I live trying to come out of that driveway behind where Stay Gold is. It's hard to see because of the cars parked diagonally out there, so I have to inch out every 1 to 2 inches. Is there a possibility to do a study to see if you can put a speed bump in there? Because I think that would help slow down that traffic. It is crazy. I welcome any police officers to stand there, and I know you had that speed sign up there at one point last summer, the summer before. I don't think that helped, to be honest. It is nuts coming down that street. You take your life in your own hands.
I'm going to totally agree with Sharon, and actually I have it on my notes right here to bring that up tonight. That intersection at 8th Avenue and Main Street hasn't grown with the increased traffic over the years. Back in the 70s, when I first got my license, there wasn't nearly as much traffic now. And I'm going to have to agree with you. We need someone to study a better way to control that 8th Avenue and Main Street, either with a turning arrow or something. Because I tried to cross the street from the brewery to, not Stay Gold, what's the other one? Anchor. And it was around sunset. And when I looked to see the traffic coming from the west, I was blinded. It was terrible. So I think we need to do something at 8th Avenue and Main Street. I agree that the speed bumps don't work. They bring their own problems, especially in the winter when it's icy and someone goes over that speed bump and now they lose control. But I think engineers, as Drew said, get an engineering firm to study it and improve it. The only problem is that's State Highway 71, right?
Well, that's where it goes from Main Street west, but east is your street.
Yeah, but I'm sure we would have to defer to the state.
Yeah, so that corner, I had contacted the county, because I think I contacted somebody here and didn't get an answer on putting in, there are no crosswalk signals on that corner, and I think that's one of the busiest corners in town now.
Now it is. It's certainly grown.
Yeah. So crosswalks would be the other thing that would definitely help there.
Yeah, just like at 10th Avenue, that really helps. Even at 9th Avenue, which is in a through, it has the pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
If anywhere we need it, we need on 8th Avenue.
Oh, sure. Anyone else?
I'm Bill Murray, 1000 River Road. And I was talking about Main and 8th. The suggestion, as a walker, the suggestion is, I do this all the time now. All crosswalks at a light are extremely dangerous anymore because of the fact, as you cross, whatever way you do it, even if you are in a correct crossing, you have traffic turning behind you. You might be walking this way and you have traffic coming behind you into a turn. This is extremely bad. I've been not hit, but almost hit a few times this way. Now the answer is to jaywalk. Who would have ever thought the answer would be to jaywalk? But that is the answer. You cross in the middle of the block. For instance, 8th Avenue, you cross that, if you want to cross, you cross at CrossFit and across in the new bagel joint. You cross there. You don't cross at that intersection, at that light. This stands for all intersections anymore. It's extremely dangerous, especially in that fact that you have the traffic turning into you from behind. And the last person, this is from a walker, the last object anybody sees behind the wheel of a car is a person on foot. That's the last thing. So I highly recommend jaywalking. Now, we've been, I walk all the roads of this in a radius about 15 miles or so, of course not going east, but 15 miles any direction otherwise. And I'm telling you, this is the answer. Trust me, I don't have a PhD or anything, but if there is such a thing as a PhD in walking, I do have that.
Thank you, Tom.
Take that or leave it, whatever you want.
Mr. Dilberger, could you sign in, please? Mr.
Maria?
Dilberger, could you sign in?
No.
Hi, Maria Ronzanaro, 1246 Pine Tree Way. I'd love to see the project go through. I think that would be great, especially for biking around that area on Railroad. That would be very helpful. One of the things that I know we're talking about traffic patterns, I know this has been brought up, but it was before our time. There is a crosswalk on Pine Tree Way to the park. However, no one should ever cross it. It's very, very dangerous. And so, and what we do is we usually walk around to 16, go to L, and get the light. But if you're not able to do all of that, there really isn't an option even, and we walk on the sidewalk sometimes, try to cut through by walking up river to the light, and that's dangerous. That walkway, even though it's just so small, we have to do single file, right? And that's kind of hard with the dog and the child. So, I don't know whether there's anything that can be looked at again. I don't know how you would do it, whether there's a light or what, but it would, safety-wise, it is something that, I'll just continue to bring up for a while.
Thank you. Yeah, Highway 35, dangerous.
And it's state though, right? So is there not anything that we can do by putting like lights?
Just asking them to study it. And
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Linda?
Linda Sharkus, 404. In reference to what Marie said about biking and Tom talking about safety, we have an issue with people riding bikes on the wrong side of the street. You talk about pedestrians being the last one. Somebody's running their bike against traffic. They're the ones that are going to go down. So I think we need to have signs to remind bikers, or pointing out to parents a flyer, or posting in the newspaper, something to keep people on the right side going with traffic. Because if you're going down a one-way street the wrong way, people who are driving aren't necessarily looking for that. So it's just a suggestion to keep our kids safe.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. If you could sign it.
Ms. Spiro?
Peter Pyro, North Boulevard. I've broken before the use of speed humps, not speed bumps. I know you were against speed bumps, Chief was against speed bumps, and the former mayor was against speed bumps. But the New Jersey statutes authorize speed humps, which are longer and wider, and they seem like the perfect suggestion to be placed on the road right next to the school. You want people to slow down near the school. There are many schools that I've seen them across the state that have that kind of a device. It's a natural barrier that slows people down. And I make that suggestion to you.
Thank you.
I'll send you a copy of the statute.
Drew, have you heard of the difference between a bump and the speed humps that you're speaking about?
I'm very familiar with them. They're about 14 foot long. They're quite expensive. I wouldn't say that I'm totally against it, but I think it needs to be looked at depending on the location where it's at.
And we could talk to the Board of Education and see what they might think about it, since it'd be like in front of their school, or would that?
I would
like to speak to Mr. Hallman?
You could, but if you plan on doing some pavement work down there, a speed hump can be pavement as long as it's engineered properly. It doesn't have to be a device or another piece of material. It can be made up. It can be designed with the pavement if it's done correctly. It meets the DOT
Dave? A lot of people sign up for your CDGB. Yeah.
David Scheck, 302 C Street. I know I won't be here long enough to see this issue resolved, but you know, as long as we're all talking about general, you know, various issues regarding vehicular safety in town, and I'll be quick. This situation with the intersection of Fifth Avenue and Main Street, where motorists that are going west on Fifth Avenue and reach the corner of Main Street cannot see whether the drawbridge is open or closed until they're in the middle of the intersection practically. And I can't tell you, just sit there in strollers on a busy day and watch all these people driving up the right lane. Finally, when their nose of the car is already out into the intersection, seeing that the bridge is up and making a left turn from the right lane suddenly. This goes on all day long. I see it all the time. I've even done myself, you know, sudden lane changes to, you know, realizing if I turn right, I'm going to be stuck at the drawbridge, and so I turn left to go to 8th Avenue to go to the big bridge. But, you know, before that Riverwalk building was there, you could see from well down 5th Avenue, you could see whether the drawbridge was open, and then just be in the correct lane. If the drawbridge was open, you would just go to left lane and use the either the other drawbridge or the back then or the fixed span bridge now. But with that Riverwalk there, it's really dangerous, and maybe as part of the plans for the new drawbridge, or hopefully maybe even sooner, if there could be some kind of indicator light, you know, back from the intersection on 5th Avenue, so people know as they're approaching the intersection if the bridge is open or not, and you know, and then plan which direction they're going to turn on Main Street accordingly. I think that would really enhance safety at that intersection. Another problem with that intersection is a lot of people ride their bicycles on the bridge the wrong direction. And when people come up to the corner, and this actually could happen at any intersection, a lot of people, when they're turning right, they don't look to the right. They only look to the left. They don't expect anyone to be coming at them from the right. So for bicyclists to be riding on the wrong side of the street is extremely dangerous, because so many people don't even look to the right when they're making a right turn. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Scheck, will you sign?
I would certainly hope that when we get the new bridge, just an indicator light would be very helpful there.
Another thing that Schnick pointed out, one of the reasons I saw it today, there's only a shoulder on the eastern side of that bridge. There's no shoulder for bicycles on the western side of the bridge.
There isn't?
No. No. If you're on a bicycle on the western side, if you don't want to ride in the lane with the cars, you have to be on the sidewalk of the pedestrian side.
I never.
Yeah, there's a shoulder on the east side, big wide, but not on the west side.
Yeah, they're not going that fast on that bridge. They could just ride in traffic like a vehicle. It's really the safest thing for a bicycle to do.
You know, some people don't feel safe from that.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The project includes replacing the curbs?
So the scope that we have now is to reconstruct asphalt roadway as needed, mill and overlay roadway, reconstruct sidewalks as necessary, reconstruct ADA ramps and curbs as needed. So again, we're trying to stretch $200,000 as far as we can.
We talk about replacing the sidewalk next to the storage place, the self-storage place?
I think that is on here, I will check. Let me
That's
see.
13th Avenue.
I do have to point something though.
Yeah.
We're talking 12th Avenue or 13th?
No, I'm talking from 13th down to 16th.
We have a quantity per line item of sidewalk to repair as
Okay.
field conditions require.
We're not talking about putting in any sidewalks like between 13th and 12th. No, we're not going to do that part yet.
That's not contemplating the right-of-way
Okay.
issues for that. There's
All right.
about 2,800 linear feet of curbing budgeted in the project, and some sidewalk. Again, our focus is on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. The road's the word. Okay, thank you.
Why are we not looking at, I guess, the area between 13th and 12th along the baseball field? I see that's not included on this.
It's not that we're not looking at it, it was just conditions drove where we went first, so this was the recommendation of the engineer.
Okay. I mean, I would definitely recommend taking a look at that section because we have a lot of parking spots there, and they're in pretty dismal shape as well.
Sure.
And also, it would tie in really nice if we are doing 12th Ave from 35 to Main Street.
Yeah.
we won't have this gap of an area of road that hasn't been redone.
Sure, and again, the idea of this would be to get into a cycle of tranches of funding each year.
Sure.
Actually, that was just a test mark to see if you were looking at this map. Pass. Person from L Street who's lived here for 7 years. I don't remember your name.
Linda.
Okay, Linda.
About a year ago, maybe a little bit more, I had brought up 16th Avenue as being a miserable place to cross when you want to go towards the harbor. And since that complaint, we do have the crosswalk. And, you know, I've complained enough or asked about things enough over the last few years. That has been a big help. Not on weekends. People don't care if they renew over on weekends. But during the week, it really has made a difference. But also, with the other thing that I had mentioned back then, the stretch between 35 and 71 is so long. If somewhere along there was a stop sign, one of the streets, slow them down, you know, because if it's an off-weekend rush, they're still racing. And it would really be helpful to the community to have a stop sign.
Yes, we would want a stop sign to slow it down, but it is a county road,
I
and
know,
the county tells us.
we did get it
Yeah.
marked.
You can thank Janice Blackburn for doing that. She hounded them long enough to finally get those.
Okay, well, maybe we
yes.
should, you know, nudge them a little bit more, but, you know, I want to acknowledge that was something that was really a concern.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other hands, I'd like to end the workshop discussion and petitions. Anyone out in the audience with a petition you want to bring forward? Seeing none. There's one.
We got one. Sherry's got one.
Sure, come on up with a petition.
Hi, Sherry Russo. I live at 1218 Broward Road. Remember when we were young, we wrote in our hands?
You wrote it on your hand.
So I remember.
It's going to be terrible. We'll have to leave it here.
That's on my arm, and it would be permanently there. I have 3 questions. I don't even know if this is the right place to ask them.
This is a petition.
Petition?
Is it a petition?
Is it a petition?
I don't know if it's a petition.
This is where you have people sign
Present
names.
to council, like a list of names asking for an action? Or do you want to ask a question before you answer that? Is it on your hand?
Can I say it and then you can tell me if I'm wrong? One thing is I want to know for a lemonade stand, do you need a permit? If it's in a different place, is that a
You
petition?
for like a child?
Like the child, so I watched 2 kids after school, I know some of you know that, a lot of you know that maybe. They wanted to put a little lemonade stand at like Leclerc Park and raise money for the shelter,
Just-
like the dog shelter.
All right, this doesn't sound like, we're going to be able to get to that, Sherry.
Not
This
yet.
doesn't sound like a petition.
This is like an official, like a list of names to compel the council to do something official.
Right.
Do you-
Yeah.
Otherwise, that sounds like public comment.
Yeah.
Public comment.
Yeah.
I'll come back, thank you.
You get a thing
Well,
that
yeah,
says, you want
stick
a
around.
lemonade stand at such, and then you get people to sign that.
Yeah.
I'll sign it.
But I don't need to do that, right?
You can ask your questions.
You're making me more work. All right, I'll come back.
Okay.
Very good.
Are you calling me?
I will make sure.
I will
Yes.
call you first.
You're first up.
Oh, I'm gonna go back to my real seat. I'm
Okay.
scared.
Approval of minutes?
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 3rd, 2018 be approved as recorded and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, now we'll go to reports of council. We'll start with you, Councilman Levis.
I don't have much that we didn't already cover, other than earlier this afternoon, I was at the Circle of Friends Golf Outing. Councilman Nicolay and Councilman Walsifer are still there right now.
They're that bad? They're still playing?
Not a little rain down.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone saw, but a little rain came through, so we did get, we got half of the round in, but it was a great event, it was well attended, and it's for a very good cause. So I encourage anyone anyone to take that up if they are able to. That's really all I have.
Okay. Councilman Brennan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I met with Jason Austin of the Little Plane Company. He's the landscaper / consultant who installed the planting on the beach down by the 12th Avenue Playground. We're working on a second stage of a pilot project to see about planting native plants along the boardwalk. We're looking at actually doing a section between 4th and 5th Avenue so we can see what happens when we put them right next to the boardwalk. And that project's coming along. A lot of good ideas bounced around, a lot of ways to get more bang for the buck. I really like those ideas. And we'll let you know, keep you posted.
Yeah. Who's selecting the plants or the variety of plants? So I remember years ago it was just strictly dune grass, which really didn't seem to work out, especially if there's a monoculture and it gets diseased, then it all dies.
Well, the list of plants that we're using has actually been developed over the course of about 2.5 years with input from the DEP, the National Park Service,
Fish and Wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife, that's what I'm trying to think of that, that's right. And then and from this landscape was very good. And we've got it whittled down to several ornamental shrubs that are native beach plants, things like beach plum, others, grasses, ornamental grasses, switch grasses that are not dune grass. They're the kind of grasses that grow in one spot, don't really spread out. A couple other things, right? He actually, Mr. Austin actually told me that in a couple of weeks we should actually see some flowers in the planting that was done by 12th Avenue. The idea being that, like you're saying, you don't want a monoculture, you want a mix of different kinds of plants that are native, that do grow in the beach, that don't need a lot of maintenance. Part of it is we don't want to have to spend time water irrigating these plants. And they will, over time, they'll establish a root system, and the dunes, the sand will pile up around it, build natural, much more steady dunes than if you just push sand with an earthworm. One of the things we did discuss that's not in the pilot planting by the playground is the idea of including some milkweed and other, I can't remember the word right now, pollinators. Right? Pollinators, milkweed in particular. He says, why, how come you don't have it down here? And so, does that grow in the sand? He goes, absolutely. Grows in the sand, it would be good. So that way, we could have something that would attract our butterfly population. Quite a few people in the community are working on help the monarch population because they're endangered with their breeding grounds down south. And I thought that was a nice idea. I'm involved in that too.
Very good.
Thank you.
I just have two things. Congratulations to Goodwill Fire Company, Chip Kavanaugh, for a very successful 5-mile run on Saturday. Police Department did a great job blocking off Wall Street. I think all the runners found their way back to the finish line. That was good. Also, I want to report on the Historical Society. There's 3 things. The statue, the Doughboy statue, will be returning on Friday morning on July 27th. Okay? It's going to be we don't know how long it's going to take them, but the Historical Society is going to set up a little tent. They're going to serve some iced tea, iced coffee, and some donuts. I guess donuts for doughboys. Is that it? And so that'll be a nice return of the statue, which was first put down in, I think, 1921. If you look outside in the foyer, the display case, the Historical Society has great photos of musicians that are associated with Belmar. Before you leave tonight or any other time you come into the foyer, take a look at it. I don't know where they come up with these photos. Some of them are great. Just terrific photos of past years and some more recent. A young girl, Nicole Atkins, graduated St. Rose. She's a nationally known singer. Spence Hewlett was involved, and Spence Hewlett, who was the president of the Historical Society, His mother was the piano player at the Riverly Theater back when they had the silent movies, and she played the piano. I think that's neat. I was at the trustee meeting for the Historical Society last week, and I just want to bring to you a request that the Historical Society trustees are getting to be very historical. And they are looking for younger residents of Belmar to carry on their hard work. And they've done a great job, especially Pat O'Keefe and Naomi Reiser over the, Pat O'Keefe since probably the last 20, 25 years. But they are looking for people to take it over. So reach out to me, reach out to Colleen, say you're interested. I'd love to introduce you to the members of the executive board and encourage younger people to get involved in the Belmar history and saving it. It just will be very valuable to us, because in a few years we will be the history of Belmar. So that's it for my report. Where do we go to next? Public session. The public session on resolutions and only on the agenda we will continue to have a public session at the end of the meeting. Following the public session, we're going back into executive session. Is that correct, Colleen? Correct? Okay. So after the public portion, for the most part, the meeting will be over except for the executive session. After we come back from that, we'll officially close the meeting, but nothing else will take place. So if there's anybody out there that has anything to say on the resolutions, please step forward to the mic, your name and address. Seeing none, I'd make a motion to close the public portion to the resolution.
Second.
Raise your hand. You have to have a resolution. Second. Aye.
Resolutions.
Next, I make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing the issuance of a plenary retail.
Hold on. I am going to recuse myself because as a professional musician in the community,
I think we need to table.
gonna have to table this. This is not.
You can't do it on necessity?
No.
No, I can't do it.
Sorry. Didn't anticipate that one.
Okay. So what do I have to do to table it? Okay, I entertain a motion to table the resolution authorizing issuance of plenary retail distribution license to Rapido Incorporated trading as Hanley Liquors for the period ending June 30th, 2019. Do I have a second?
I will make the motion.
You can go to the table.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I have a second, so.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
All right, next I make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing the payment of bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Finally, I make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing refunds.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Didn't want that.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, ordinances for the first reading and introduction. Ordinance 2018-13. The ordinance of the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Belmar in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending the Seaport redevelopment plan and referring same to the Borough Planning Board for review and comment. I just have to read it, right? Okay. Next.
Do you need a motion to introduce?
Yes, motion to introduce.
So just a motion to introduce and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, public session. Jerry. I petition you to come forward.
See, it's a good thing I wrote it on my hand. I would have forgot by now.
Did you get through school that way?
I know. And better memory back then. I was young and fresh. All right, I don't even know, I'm sorry, do I have to do the Zoom thing again? No, right?
I think we have.
All right, perfect. I have 3 things I wanted to ask about. If I'm wrong, feel free to tell me. One is on my street, we don't get a lot of walking traffic, and the kids wanted to know if they could have a little lemonade stand at Montclair Park and donate the funds to the MSPCA or ASPCA or whatever the letters are properly, the animal shelter in Monmouth County. And is that okay? Or do I need a permit?
I'm going to go
Permit,
to,
not petition, the word that I was missing.
I'm going to go to our council. Is that anything,
Do we care that?
do we care? I mean,
Technically, you know, peddler's license, but I've never seen 7-year-olds arrested by the local police here, so I'm sure if they put out their label, it would be
She okay. is still 7. That's pretty good. All right, my other question is, Carly plays basketball and she's in 2nd grade. In Belmar, we don't have any like short nets. I don't know what the right word is. It's like
Lower baskets.
Lower baskets. Is it possible that like, I don't know.
you mean in Belmar, you mean like at,
Like, you know, like I would want to take her to like maybe this big basketball hoops for when she's older, but like none of them move, do they?
no,
Like,
we don't.
In the gym though, we have lower.
We have lower,
is it not always open, or is it open at certain times I don't know about, or like, I don't know how to do
We're gonna
that?
be doing some open gym time, especially when school gets back into session.
And not for the summer, like she's on summer rec, is that the right word?
so she's probably, in other words, you're looking for practice time.
Like practice time, right, so she plays and she's much better now, and I try to do the best I can, and, you know, but there's only so much you can do without
Talk
having.
to Barry at summer camp.
Oh, it's
Some
summer
gym time.
camp, okay?
Yeah.
And my third question, see, I saved them all up for one day, I don't want to use up everything. My third thing is, in Avon, and in Asbury Park, and in Bradley Beach, they have free library book boxes that are on the boardwalk. I know in Belmar you're allowed to have one at your house, but I was wondering how to start the process to get them to be put on the boardwalk. So in all the other towns on the boardwalk, they have like a mailbox posty thing that goes in the ground, and the person, let's say it's me and Colleen and April for just names here, like maybe I would take 16th and she would take 10th and she would take 2nd, and you have like a little mailboxy type looking thing, and it says like leave a book, take a book, and some people do them for like children, some people have done them in honor of their son that passed, or a person, or a teacher, or somebody, and they like design them and make them very cute. I know people have them in the yards, and I was wondering if we could maybe have them on the boardwalk.
That's interesting.
Like,
We have them when they're growing up next week.
I think it's a great idea. I've never really
yay.
heard of such a, how does,
It's there's a Bradley Beach and Avon, they have like 3. One is like specific about children's books, and if you don't put a children's book in there, they'll leave you a little note. But, and there's one by like the train station in Asbury, there's one by, on Asbury, like on the boardwalk, and then there's one on Cookman.
They're going to be in Piano Plaza, Taylor Pavilion.
wait. We're already ahead of this?
Done.
Oh, but we don't have any on the boardwalk.
There will be, next week. They're in.
Oh, they're there? On the boardwalk?
They will be next week.
Yeah.
Who keeps track of
We visit them, staff visits them, library staff visits
Library
them,
staff.
make sure the stock's, you know, flowing around. But otherwise, they're self-run.
Terrific.
Yeah, it's free
Just so you know,
library.
I have one in front of my house.
It's cute.
Yeah, see, I would like
And
one in
it's
front of my
take
house,
your
but
leave.
I don't have like that kind of like trafficking neighborhood.
Right.
Like if I lived like on the other side of where you live per se, but like, yeah, I know some people out there.
You know what, people are really, really good, what I find is that
Yes.
people are, they're absolutely, definitely they take books, they love to look, just need to see what's there.
Yes.
But what's really, really nice is when people put books in.
Yes,
And
I do
you
both.
see a lot of,
Yeah.
you know, go out and look and go, you didn't put this book in here. People definitely put things in too. It's
I
really
take
nice.
them and I take them for the summer,
Mhm.
for the winter, then I save everything I read,
Yeah.
and then if the summer comes, I restock them back again.
It's a lovely idea.
So Colleen, we're gonna have town ones, or?
Yeah, the library board authorized 3 little libraries,
Yes.
and they'll be placed in Piano Plaza, one at Taylor Pavilion, one at 10th Avenue Pavilion on the boardwalk.
Very good.
Can we do another one at 16?
Well, we'll see how successful they are, and maybe
Like,
expand.
if, like, do like private ones there possibly? Like, I don't know how to say that.
Like a lemonade stand?
No, not like, no, like, so like the town is sponsoring the 3 of these. Can I like sponsor my own on 16th and Boardwalk 16? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, not on the board, but I could
Pretty
see,
happy to start with 3.
You're right,
So-
but down the road, I mean. Like, let's say those are successful. Like,
I could see how that would grow into a problem with people coming down wherever they want and putting it on the boardwalk. Remember years ago, they
like
had
you would put the
those
post.
those newspaper things where they had so many.
Yeah, no, it doesn't
newspaper
look like-
I have
racks.
some experience with this. I mean, I've seen people put the private ones on, there's like I don't know, about 100 of them in Red Bank on private lawns. Anyone that's been on public property that I've dealt with thus far has been sponsored by the local library. Because it just opens up Pandora's box, and someone wants to put something, something else,
Yeah.
something else. The best laid intentions end up with
Yes.
us fighting people over
People
what they
with
put on the
zero
board.
common sense.
Right.
Yeah, so everyone that I've seen on public property, any towns that I'm involved in, including my own town, which we have a community center, those have all been sponsored and are monitored by someone from the local library. So I recommend you do that, we stick to that.
Yeah, I think in Avon, somewhere they have, it's called thelittlibrary.org, am I right?
Yes.
So it's called, and you can like look it up online.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then you can know all about it too. Thank you for everything.
Sharon,
No worries.
you had your hand raised?
I was just saying, there's a couple in town already. There's one on 8 East Street, I think there's one on 11.
They must be private. The one on 11 belongs to this gentleman over here.
It belongs to
Okay,
my
see, I
wife.
knew I saw one.
Belongs to my wife. I just had to put it in the ground.
Okay. Anybody else? Sir?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mark Presto. I live on 13th Ave in Belmar. Just a couple of things. We put the four-way stop signs in, or all-way stop signs, but there's no notation that it's all-way. People are confused who has the stop sign. And I think the laws are different as to if it's an all-way stop versus a stop sign. Wouldn't it be a requirement to put all stopped?
I see his point. Sometimes you are confused, especially if sometimes you come to an intersection where it's just a two-way stop, where you just came through a four-way stop or a three-way stop. That would be helpful, just a little bit more information, if we can do that. Good.
Beach tents, are they not allowed any longer?
No.
Okay. There seem to be more of them this year than there used to be. I mean, I had no complaints before, but if you're going to institute regulation, I would think it should be enforced.
Well, we do have for toddler tents.
Baby shade is.
Yes, up to a certain height.
Yeah, and someone has a smaller tent.
I noticed 8 within 30 yards.
On what beach was this?
13th Ave. Would you like to see a picture?
Nope.
Okay. It was a huge camping tent that somebody decided, someone was in front of us, we had a view of the beach. They left, someone else came up and just popped up this this big tent. And,
Was it a sunny day?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Sure. And like I said, it wasn't one, it's 8 of them. And I think people need to understand when they enter the beach that there's certain regulations, and honestly, I just don't think the people know that there's no tents.
We have signs there at the gate, right? Yeah, see, at every entrance there is a sign. Sometimes people, they do recommend putting up a sign, people don't read it. Mr. Pyro was talking to me before about a sign, don't feed the waterfowl. And I've seen people put things on the sign as they fed the ducks.
Yeah, that's another thing. But people could be reminded.
Yes.
The police walk by, they don't say anything, and I don't think it should be a big issue, but they should remind them, listen, we have an ordinance against us.
We're enforcing it a little bit more strictly. It was a new ordinance this summer.
Yes.
And a lot of our specials that have worked in the past were not aware of the new ordinance because we didn't pass the ordinance until last October or November. So when they came on, they didn't know about the new, but they've been informed since then.
Okay.
Start seeing it.
Yes.
I mean, this was just last weekend, so
Yes.
it's not something that was in the beginning of the season.
It shouldn't have happened last weekend. It could have been, if you say it was up, but we're getting better at it.
Mm-hmm. I guess we have new recycle and garbage rules that we were kind of informed after the fact. But something happened this past garbage collection day. We had a very small broken boogie board inside the garbage can with regular garbage. They didn't take it, they left it behind. Are there other rules that I'm not aware of, that they won't take certain items?
DPW?
No, I brought it to the boardwalk and put it in the garbage up there.
Should have taken a, what?
Not sure what the issue was now. Always give DPW a call though, they might.
But we just got recently.
I mean, not a big deal, but if there's more rules, I'd rather know.
Well, we just recently got informed from the county not to take recyclables in a plastic bag.
Right, yeah.
So we were directed not to do it, and we tried to get it out to you. So the change was passed down to us, and because a lot of times you see people just put in a plastic bag, some bottles, some cans, and put it out at the curb. You can't do it that way anymore.
Right, yeah, I understand.
And that's not our rule, that's the Monmouth County recycling. So.
I'm glad to see that there's some plantings that are going all along the beach. That's great. And the books too, the libraries. And then just another sort of general comment about enforcement. About we have these zero tolerance laws, and it seems to me that the only time that a summons might be issued or somebody might be warned is if a resident calls and complains. Which I do, but I don't want to have to call every Friday night, Saturday night, Tuesday night at 2:20 in the morning because the bars are emptying out. And people are staying on their porches, they're waking me up. Do I need to call, or could we have, for instance, I see police all day or special police all day on the beach. Could we redirect some of that maybe for a period of time to 2:30 in the morning when there's some big issues on all the streets from Ocean Ave down, probably all over. I'm on 13th between Ocean and A. And I say on every night, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, I have a wake-up call, usually about 2:18. A couple of times I've called, but I don't think I have to wake up every night and make the call.
Yeah.
Patrols are out, yeah.
Yeah,
But certainly
we'll talk to the
also-
chief to, get the patrols. We're not gonna tell the chief to take people from the day shift and put them on the night shift. That's, we don't wanna micromanage the police department. The chief is aware of the problems, and I'm sure he deploys his men and women accordingly.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to be complaining and having fines and all this when I call, but maybe it's just appropriate that they have these party houses and inform them. Listen, it's 2:00 in the morning, people are sleeping, you can't be loud.
You would like them to issue them a summons without you having to call first?
A summons or even a warning, just so that they're aware of it, that I don't have to be calling all the time.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, that's it.
Yes.
Sandy Caputo, Surf Avenue. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, my same story. On the beach.
Let me guess. Football.
Footballs, frisbees, soccer balls, full-grown men running, not watching where they're going. Right in front of the lifeguards, right where children are playing, right where people are sitting. Now, to be fair, I will say that I know someone on 10th, and just last week on the weekend, he asked the lifeguard to stop a football game, and the lifeguard did. That's good, but what happens is nobody's playing football all day. These guys get up, they're playing for 10 minutes. Then those guys get up, they're playing for 10 minutes. If we could get, when it's dangerous, if we could get the lifeguard like they do for everything else. I was just on the beach for a lot this past weekend. You hear that whistle, everybody looks up, lifeguard makes some motion, whatever you're doing you shouldn't be doing, and pretty much everybody gets it. And I don't know why they have to, for a football, even if you ask them why they have to come down off the stand when a whistle would do it. And when they see this going on, and it's very dangerous, right in front of them, right where kids are playing, they should be blowing that. It shouldn't be on everyone to go up and ask them. And after a while, it will be like years ago, and everyone will know you can't throw a football around where people are.
This is people throwing football in front of the lifeguard stand down by the water. You don't have a problem with them going to the back of the beach and having a catch or...
Right now, I'm talking about a football flying right in the surf.
Right. Okay.
Grown men or young people the size of grown men running. For all I know, people are getting hurt and I just don't hear about it. I know first aid is at the beach for a lot of reasons, a lot of the time. But when the lifeguards see this right in front of them, right where kids are playing, right where people are sitting, for a lot of days you can't even relax. You have to watch out for this. I don't know why they don't just blow the whistle and make it stop, like they do for everything else.
I don't know why. We're going to have to speak to
Well, I guess they would need to be told.
They've been told, we're going to have to tell them again, and, I apologize.
Thank you, that's very nice. I'm not, over back by the boardwalk isn't as bad. I've also been walking on the boardwalk where you would think it would be okay and have a football crash right by me, but it's not as bad as right down by the water where everyone is. And they can always play football before 9 and after, I don't know what it is now, 5 o'clock. You can go down and do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to speak to,
Okay.
So, I have a feeling, I'm sure he'll tell his people, and then,
Well, once everyone gets used to it, that that's the way it should be, I think it will be like it used to be.
I hope so, yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have something else too. I was on the boardwalk a few nights ago for the fireworks, very nice. So we're all on the boardwalk, it's dark. The group next to me had several small children, and a couple groups of bicycles, not even being careful, are flying down the boardwalk, back and forth. I don't know how these kids didn't get run over. And 2 special officers standing right there, not even know that, they're going right past them. And by the time I get over there, tell them the bicycles are 2 blocks away, so that's not going to work. So I don't know, maybe they don't know either, that this was awful, because on fireworks night, we're all standing on the boardwalk. So especially on a night where everybody's out for ice cream, walking on the boardwalk, enjoying the evening air. And I know there's always a few specials on the boardwalk. I'm thinking people don't even know they're not supposed to be doing it. But stop these bikes and explain to them, and that'll stop too.
Hopefully, we'll speak to that also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
If you're gonna run up 60th Street, I'm okay. Just to address everything that everybody's getting up and talking about, the man on 13th Avenue and the woman that just got up about the beach rules and regulations. Years ago, again, I guess when I was 28, I moved here, and we started initiated the community policing. And I have been in touch with Chief Heisman to possibly, although it still exists, and for the gentleman, I don't know if it's here. Okay, you go on the Belmar website, every street will have an officer that is assigned to your street, and he will be able to look up and contact that officer for the problems that he's having, rather than getting up every night at 2 o'clock to address it himself. And what we found in the past is if the officer is able to pay a visit to the house and introduce himself and say, if noise occurs, if this occurs, then they will be issued a ticket. So the community policing program is extremely important in this community for the issues that residents have. And speaking with Chief Heisman, because the summer is intense and we've taken over Lake Como, they're inundated with a lot more than we've ever been before. So we're hoping maybe in September to organize and have some type of a meeting with the residents and people who are still interested, who don't know about community policing, and introduce the program to those that have just moved here or things that they're not familiar with. Which leads us into the other woman speaking about beach rules and regulations, which is not necessarily the community policing because that encompasses the beach. But years ago, as a group, we worked very hard to change ordinances, I thought, for ball playing and different things. And every time as a council, mayor and council, you create an ordinance, it costs a lot of money to alter an ordinance and to invent a new ordinance, add to, take apart, do whatever. It's very costly. So I'm not sure if the ordinance that we had changed to prevent ball playing and different things that they just all spoke about has been altered again since that time. If not, then the thing that we had placed on restrictions on all those things should be in place. And if new officers that everybody brought up may not be familiar with it, we will be ready hopefully for next year if there are new specials or ordinances, that things that have been brought to light as problems from the community be introduced and looked at by the officers so that they are as prepared as the residents would like them to be. So that's about all I can say to that. So hopefully we will get that back up and running and have a meeting for the whole town or different streets. Years ago, we used to do it street by street. But if you look it up on the website right now, you'll know who it is, and they can pay a visit to that home and address it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Tom, Burke had his hand up first. Tom, you'll be next.
Just a friendly reminder on a positive note, tomorrow night is good family-oriented activities on Main Street with the first cruise night of 2018. I hope to see you all there, council members and mayor, and members of the public. It should be a good family fun. It should be safe. There will be police officers to protect you. The roads will be cordoned off, so it should be safe. And we hope to see you all there. It's supposed to be great weather.
What time does it start there, Tom?
It's scheduled to start at 6 o'clock, but we found that most of these guys show up with their cars fairly early, so we try to ramp things up by 5:30, get started. So please all attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Dilberger?
Thank you. A little more about this problems on the streets with walkers, bikers, and all these, whatever else you got, skateboarders.
Yeah.
Forgot that. There's not much that can be done at this point. It's, what you have is like a light anarchy. People are losing control, slowly losing control of themselves. And it's because of this new way of living. They don't see and hear things. They're not able to use their senses correctly. There are so many things that logic can't even explain it anymore. That are beyond people's ability to think and act. And all these suggestions, I sympathize with people, but everything's changed. Everything changes all the time, but nothing has ever changed like it has now in the last 30, 40 years, or since I was a boy. This is almost a different planet. Up is sort of down, right might be left. everything's open to question. And it goes into driving a car or riding a bicycle. My trade, structural iron worker, had to change incredibly because of the changes of the people. And we didn't know what we were seeing because we were only iron workers. But we were seeing the beginnings of a new way of living. And now people say, let's put the stop sign here or this light there and all of these other things, and this might help. Nothing's going to help. A lifeguard blowing a whistle at the guy throwing a football isn't going to help. Or giving him a ticket isn't going to help. He'll come here and talk and sit in front of the judge, stand in front of the judge, he'll get a fine, and he'll walk out, and he'll do the same thing again. It means nothing. There is no penalty. There is nothing. I wish it wasn't this way. But when I walk down the road and I see people unable to maintain their lane, drifting, and hopefully he's not drifting towards me, but a lot of times he is, or drifting in the oncoming traffic, or doesn't know when to make the turn, is out there frozen, can't do these things. It's unbelievable. But I find it fascinating. So I go out each day to look at it, to watch it. I can't believe the things I see, but it is fascinating when you're almost 75 to see this.
How far do you walk each day there, Tom? You go out?
Just as far as I have to, whatever errand I'm doing. I don't measure. I don't do those things. It's fluid, just like everything else around, like I just described it. We get people, we said, let's make the voting age 18. Just when people who were 18 were not able to take on that responsibility. Now, since then, we've taken 18-year-olds or 26 and 27-year-olds and allowed them to stay on their parents' medical and their insurance, their car insurance and all. Is this an adult? But we have an adult, a 28-year-old person driving down the road. This quote adult who is able to quote vote and think and all these things. This is just anarchy. What we have. Muddle through your day, get through the next day, and hope for the best. That's all you can say. I sympathize with people with their children and everything, but there ain't nothing you can do. Nothing. That's done. If there was any gonna be done, it should have been done 30 years ago, 40 years ago. How many people you see in a car? The light turns green. Their car is moving. They're in motion, and they're still looking down. They're still looking down. You can see that on the Garden State. These people are doing 70, 80 miles, and they're looking down. 70 miles an hour. This is not a game. What do you think all these flatbeds are with these smashed up cars on it? Every day, all day, everywhere. And the debris on the road from accidents, everywhere. And we talk about the guy who's throwing the football.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom.
That's the way it is.
Yes.
Hi, Martha Masalko, 102 North Boulevard. I was just, since Tom was bringing up the landscaping, made me think of Lake Como. And I don't know when the decision will be made with what type of landscaping will be done there. I was just wondering if we could get an idea.
Well, it would be up to Spring Lake. It's their property.
Is that true, Colleen?
That Lake
We're
Como.
going to be working with Spring Lake, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's in our contract and we're paying for it. So we
Right.
are working with them.
She's talking about, most of the people down there don't want dune grass.
Correct, and we've been getting lots of great feedback from the neighbors and we encourage them to keep coming.
Right, but I think Spring Lake Council will be the one that decides what kind of grass goes there, not people from Belmar.
Is that true?
Is that correct?
I mean, that's
Hey, It's our contract, our funding. We certainly are consulting with them. We know what they would like to see there. We're hearing from our residents as well. But with the easement and the structure of that project site, it is ours. So it's ours to put out.
Okay.
So that's why we've been encouraging feedback to come in, and We're going to be working with DEP. There's a lot of stakeholders and factors to consider, but all that feedback helps us.
But nothing until after the,
No.
yeah. So
Not till.
you can't plan, so you don't want to plan, you can't plan anything
Yeah,
now.
it's not
It'll-
going to be until fall, so there's plenty of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Gina?
Katrina Pappas, B Street. 2 questions. Did you guys say you were going into executive session?
Yes, we are.
About, are you allowed to tell us what you're going to executive session about?
Pending litigation, specifically 10th Avenue freeze-out et al. Versus the Borough of Belmar et al.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question about the Belmar Inn and violations that are going on in the Belmar Inn. I'm reading something on Tap Into. My question I think is, how often is a business like the Belmar Inn, how often is there a code enforcement? Like, how often does code enforcement go in to check that in a business like that? Is there anybody?
They have an annual fire inspection.
Annual fire inspection?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fire official goes there.
Nobody living in there now, right?
No, there's nobody in there now. That's why I have this question, because Tap Into just did an article about that, and she said in this, during the last inspection, violations found involved emergency and exit signage, fire doors improperly vented, machine equipment, unsafe heating appliances, open electrical issues, the use of extension and power cords, restoring fire protection equipment, lack of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in all rooms, improper basement storage, holes in the first floors and ceilings and walls throughout the building, and that the fire and the sprinkler system testing and emergency plans were also found to be deficient. So I guess my question is, did that happen overnight? I mean, what is that?
All I can say is, we probably in January, we got a new fire marshal. Is that
Okay.
Brian?
Yeah, a little over a year.
And he's a little bit stricter than the one previous. And he went in there and, with a fine-tooth comb and came out, am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely, it was their annual fire inspection and
And
also response to complaints.
he found these violations that, I don't want to blame the other guy, why he didn't find them. Maybe Ryan is a little bit more observant, but that's why.
And I'm very glad, what?
So they appealed those, I appeared before the Construction Court of Appeals about a year ago.
Right.
Entered into a settlement with them to resolve those issues.
Resolve.
Ultimately, I don't think they did, they closed now, so.
Right, it closed instead. And because some of these are like fire ratings, fire stair walls on all the floors weren't there. So my question is, that all couldn't have happened in 1 year. I mean, obviously, that's been an ongoing problem. I'm glad to hear that the new fire marshal is on track. And hopefully, because now there's this article saying that they're talking about reopening. So I'm just hoping that this new fire marshal will, if that does happen.
There's a written agreement in place that they cannot open unless they resolve
this. And then next year, there will be another inspection, and hopefully that will be, okay, thank you, that's.
And I'll say it, Ryan's better than the last guy.
Okay, great, well, obviously, because those are a lot of things to have been.
The other guy could have mentioned those violations also, and the owner didn't make good on it.
Right, but it's our responsibility,
So they could have built up over the years. Ryan came in and said, that's it. That's the type
Which
of
is
guy he is.
fantastic, that tells us that the
Yeah.
code enforcement was not being enforced, and that's what we're kind of talking about tonight. A lot of people seem to have come up about enforcement. Enforcing the tents, there's been a gazillion tents on the beach this year. Tons of tents, more than last year. And the football is like whatever. So I guess the whole thing is about enforcement.
Right.
It's great having laws, rules, but if nobody's enforcing them, what good are they? But thank you, I appreciate hearing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one more quick thing to bring up since they brought up the other things.
Victoria Renner.
There was a site, Common Sense for Belmar, had posted a video about Sunrise is that place, on 16th.
16th Avenue and Main Street, Tacoma.
Lake Como. And it was brought, the video brought attention to all the patrons coming back and forth from the bars, walking, and using the alleyway there to urinate, and whatever.
That's not a good thing.
No, it was disgusting. And so it was caught on video, it was posted, everybody was appalled by it. A business was mentioned on who possibly owned the property. They were contacted and notified of this video. And I believe rather quickly, the next day or so, our police officers, I think, and our code enforcement, I'm not sure.
I addressed it immediately. I met with the owner and we resolved it right away.
Okay, so I am very happy that it was resolved, and it was resolved very quickly. I made a comment on the blog, which is the same comment I'm basically making for 12th Avenue with the possibility of having the center island put in, is aesthetics. You can fix something, and I'm glad that the actual problem is addressed, so the person can no longer enter that alleyway. But aesthetically, if you look at new buildings where I work, the garbage dumpsters are enclosed in, they put that plastic in the fencing, so it's shadowed, and you're not looking into a dirty alleyway and seeing dirty dumpsters. If it was truly a commercial area where it was out someplace and the whole area was commercial, it would be different from the residents who face that. So I know it's Lake Como, and I know our police officers are there and helped address it, and we're a part of the solution.
There's more to the story though.
Okay, and I was just wondering, because the dumpsters are shadowed in the back, there's wood there, I was wondering, do we contact Lake Como, or when that resolution was passed to have Sunrise operate there? I don't know what specifics were detailed in them in the beginning to secure the building and make sure what happened didn't happen. But now that we were part of that solution, I'd like to take it a step further and see if the owner or that building, whoever is in charge, would consider shadowing that somehow to make it so it's not something you look at from our community, or that we have to, our neighborhood has to look at.
I'd have to think that would be a Lake Como council issue.
So go to them?
Well, I addressed it with the Sunrise already. So it's going to take a month for the fence company to build a specialty fence.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what she has decided to do until that's done is put up a temporary.
Thank you.
I don't know if she has it up full-time, but it'll be up especially on Tuesdays and on the weekends. But it's a month out on a build on a specialty fence. It's going to be the owner also owns other strip malls, so she's going to have what's similar at her other strip malls, which is a fabric fence, which you can't see through. This way, if it does get damaged, it's cheaper to replace than have to replace the whole front of the fence. So it's in
Well,
there.
I thank all of you for addressing it quickly. It was brought to attention, and something was done about it, and I think it made a lot of people happy.
Yeah, so we're going to see a nice permanent fence down the road. So.
Okay, good. Thank you.
As Tom said, we can't solve why someone would do what they're doing, but we can put the fence up.
Correct.
I'm sorry, can I?
I guess.
May I?
Just, I'm sorry. Katrina Claps, B Street. In reference to that, fear with the fence is just like we saw in that video. There was a girl right in front of the house who pulled her pants down and urinated behind a garbage can.
I saw it.
Okay, so the other fear is that, okay, now we have a fence, so now where are these people going to go and urinate? So do we get a little more crowd control when the bars close, spread through the streets? That's kind of what I was going to just...
The big question is, before they leave the bar that has restrooms, why not use them?
Well, nobody, who knows why anybody would do what they do.
We don't want to wait on
I wonder if alcohol's involved.
I wonder.
Sharon?
Quite sources of the elements might be a little while. Sharon, the Money Main Street. So one quick thing before I get into this. Your historical society thing?
Yes.
Have you thought of putting an article in the Coast Star looking for people? That's one place.
I'm sure they will if the co-star.
And the other is reaching out to the schools to see if you have young explorer or historians who want to kind of get started. Yeah. Okay, so the main reason I'm here is I know that we have a plastic ban that you passed, but it's not into effect until next May, right? So I'm here today to ask the council to pass an ordinance banning not only single-use plastic bags, but also straws and EPS, the expanded polystyrene containers. Additionally, we need to act on this sooner rather than later, so bear with me. It is estimated there are 29 million plastic bags and 500 million straws used every day in the U.S. That's just the U.S., in this country, so I might as well address that. And most of this ends up in the ocean. To understand how many straws 500 million really is, this would fill over 125 school buses with straws every day. That's 45,625 school buses every year. If the annual number of plastic bags were tied together, it would reach around the Earth's equator 773 times. Polystyrene and plastic straws are not recyclable. While polystyrene, or the polypropylene used in other plastic recyclable material, might be recyclable, even the biggest recycling centers do not accept that type of polystyrene, as well as the plastic straws, as we know. Most plastic straws are used by restaurants and bars, okay, it's a single use. Therefore, it's up to the businesses to do it, but we can't rely on that. Virtually every piece of plastic that was ever made still exists in some shape or form, with the exception of a small amount that has been incinerated. People use plastic bags for roughly 10 to 15 minutes, whereas it takes up to 1,000 years for a plastic bag to decompose in a landfill. Plastic never decomposes in the ocean. 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans every year. If that doesn't shock you, then this will. The amount of microplastic in the ocean surpasses the number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy.
Say that one again?
The amount of microplastic in the ocean right now surpasses the number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy. There are countless videos showing the damage that plastic is doing to marine life, from seals trapped in plastic netting, to sperm whales found with over 30 plastic bags in their stomachs, to divers pulling a straw from a turtle's nose. That video alone has been watched over 25 million times. If you've never seen it, go home and watch it. Ocean debris kills over 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine animals, whales, sharks, turtles, dolphins, and seals each year. Research has found that 70% of seabirds and 30% of sea turtles have some amount of plastic in their system. If we don't make a change now, by the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Regarding New Jersey, you might have heard about the New Jersey Senate bill putting a 5 cent tax on plastic and paper bags. This bill just establishes a fee. It doesn't eliminate. Now, fortunately, Governor Murphy tabled that piece when he signed the budget on July 1st. So maybe he's on that side. At least several, I understand a lot of towns have put their own bans in place individually, which is great. Many establishments have taken the steps forward to do that. A lot of places in Asbury Park. Tim McClone, I think you saw on the news, 10 of his restaurants, he's banning plastic straws. If this bill that is in the state right now gets reintroduced and is passed in October, no other municipality can pass their own bill. So we have to act sooner to do something versus later. The only other hope is that there's at the state levels, another bill, S2776, introduced June 25th by New Jersey Senators Bob Smith and Linda Greenstein, proposing a ban on plastic carryout bags, EPS, and single-use plastic straws. Exactly what I'm talking about. However, the status of this is unknown right now. So thankfully, some large public companies have been jumping on board with the straw ban alone, looking to replace with straws with biodegradable alternatives or recyclable lids. Companies include Starbucks, Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott UK, American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, SeaWorld Entertainment, and Royal Caribbean. Now, as far as the sustainability movement, we do have solutions. Bans like this will create opportunity for creative and environmentally friendly products. We're all looking for entrepreneurs, out with the old, in with the new. One such company has a biodegradable straw that can be eaten directly after its use, or compostable. Eco-friendly paper straws are 100% compostable or edible, as I just mentioned. Paper bags are recyclable. Thankfully, we've seen a movement with the recycling companies saying we can use paper bags and not plastic, which is great. Like all those paper bags and paper boxes from Amazon I can finally use. Well, I see more and more people using reusable bags, when you go to the grocery store and whatnot. You don't necessarily think about that when you go to pick up one thing, two things at, the little stores. So this issue is regarding the single-use stuff. Adding a fee to bags will not solve our problem, or significantly reduce the impact of plastic litter and how it affects our environment. If you really want to tackle the problem, a ban's the only way to do it. We all know that changing habits is hard. This is the direction we need to go. I realize that retailers might balk at the additional costs that these changes might bring, but they had to do the same thing when credit card acceptance came into light, Okay, we're gonna get charged for that, so you pass it on to consumers a little bit. At least these proposed changes will benefit the environment. If we don't initiate these types of changes, what will the future look like for our children, grandchildren, our ecosystem, and our wildlife? Think about 2050. It's only, I can't do the math.
Yeah,
35 years now?
32
Yeah,
years.
exactly. So Belmar needs to take this bold step and create the ordinance and get it passed before October, okay? So we don't get caught under that New Jersey law where we can't do anything after that. I'm going to end soon. To paraphrase Gandhi, we need to be the change we want to see in the world. I would love to be able to tell people that I live in a town that cares about the future of our environment and wildlife by putting these bans into place. I wish for Belmar to be part of the solution. The borough will certainly benefit by being an early adopter. In closing, I'm going to leave you with a quote by Milo Kress, the founder of the Straw Campaign. This planet is not a place that kids will inherit at some point far off in the distant future. We live here right now. We share this planet already. It's ours to play on as well as take care of. By the way, this was 2011, and this kid was 9 years old when he founded his campaign, starting with one restaurant in Vermont. So I urge you to be a leader, not a follower. If we can get this in place, the polystyrene, the straws, and the plastic before October, then we've got our solution.
Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Seeing no other hands,
No, one more.
David? Then we have to go into executive session.
Shine through to C Street. About this executive session, it's about litigation. Ms. Nicolay and Mr. Walser, are they aware that there's an executive session tonight? And is it a good idea to only have 3/5 of the council present if you're discussing, legal issues that are facing the borough?
I'll go to my attorney.
Sure. I'm not sure if they're aware of it, because I added it pretty late this afternoon. That being said, the 5 council members and I discussed the matter at length after the last meeting. This is really to update them, get their opinion. And as you know, may not know, we'll call them on the phone and talk to these guys generally on the phone as their attorney.
Yeah.
So they're going to be on the phone with you when you're having the executive session? I would think that all of you should be present for that, or at least have some input rather than. Especially if it's possible that they don't even know that you're having an executive session. That doesn't seem right.
We meet with Colleen, and we were given an agenda like last Friday. So I hate to wait for another 2 weeks. I'd like to get ahead on this, because most of it is the feedback from the meeting that Mr. Cannon had with these people following our last executive session.
Maybe you can call them, and I would think that they should be in on any discussion about
Mr.
this.
Schneck, I'm an attorney, I have ethical obligations. You can ask anyone up there, anyone party, anything. I don't do anything, I don't send any letters, I don't do anything unless all 5 of them know up there. So be assured that it'll be okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, make a motion to end the public portion to the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the meeting